Guys, we got to talk about the Steam Machine. All right, we got to talk about the Steam Machine because there's a couple of things going down with the Steam Machine that I think people need to know about. First things first, when the Steam Machine was first announced and the specs were first shown, I specifically stated on my streams that I just don't see how this is going to be possible. The Steam Machine was essentially saying that they were going to be able to provide 4K 60 FPS with FSR, right? And even with FSR, looking at the specs, I just didn't see how that was going to be possible. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join me every single day, 9 p.m. over on the main channel, where you can catch me live every single day, 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope to see every single one of you there. Now back to the main video. And it's not that I thought Valve was lying to their customers. I just think that they were overshooting their shot, personally. And I'm tired of tech companies doing that because, PlayStation did the same thing. When they first released the PS5, everybody remembers it had that golden badge on the PlayStation 5 promising 8K. Like the game was going to be able to do 8K, and then the system was going to be able to do 8K, and then come to find out it was like one video game that they were able to do 8K with or something along those lines. I'm just tired of it because it leads to a false precedence for people that, anybody that knows anything about hardware, you can easily see like that's not going to be possible. So anyway, Valve was promising 4K 60 FPS when they first announced the Steam Machine, and now apparently they're changing it. They've actually changed it to remove the 60 FPS part of the 4K 60 promise. So let's talk about it, see what's going on. We also got some nonsense going on with the Steam Machine in terms of scalpers, which we're going to go over in a second. It's egregious, and what's even more egregious is that there are people that are actually buying it, supposedly. But we'll talk about it. So Valve has quietly changed the wording used to describe the Steam Machine's 4K gaming capabilities, and it may be a bad sign for the device. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now from someone who understands the hardware and understands the purpose of the Steam Machine and understands all that stuff. I'm going to tell you right now. If you're buying the Steam Machine to try to get 4K gaming, stop. Stop right now. Just stop. Don't do it. Do not buy the Steam Machine expecting 4K gaming. Just literally turn around and stop. Because if you're expecting 4K gaming out of a $1,000 box, whether it's your own pre-built, like your own box, or whether it's the Steam Machine, just stop. You're not going to get 4K consistent gaming with any machine at $1,000. It's just not going to happen. Just stop. If you want to talk 1080p, we could get back to it, right? If you want to talk, just, again, 4K, turn around and fucking leave. Stop. Get some help. Because it's not going to happen. Exactly. Especially since video games are optimized terribly these days. You're not going to get it out of the box, all right? 1080p is where you're going to be at with the Steam Machine at 60 FPS as long as you tailor your settings properly depending on the game that you're playing. If the game is a few years old, you're probably going to be able to play at 1080p max settings. If the game is relatively new and it's, AAA quality, whatever, you're probably going to be at medium settings. Most likely. So just, we need to relax. Let's slow down a little bit. Anyway, so that's just me being honest with you. You do what you want to do at that point. But again, let's just stop with the 4K out of a Steam Machine. I don't care what Valve says. This is why I like when people are like, oh, you're a Steam or Valve fanboy. No, I'm telling you that they're full of shit right now. It's not what you should be expecting out of their box. Period. Anyway, the Steam Machine has already seen some controversy due to its high price. While fans of Valve and Steam were expecting a higher price after Valve admitted the securing hardware was becoming difficult, having to fork over $1,049 for the base version of the system likely puts a new console PC hybrid. It's not a console PC hybrid. Jesus fucking Christ. It's a PC. It is a PC. It doesn't have a closed-off system. It's not a closed-off system. It's not a console. Anyway, These journalists know that, but they still purposely say the wrong things. Anyway, out of reach for many who have otherwise gladly bought it. Even for those who still intend to pick one up, the new information may make the Steam Machine less appealing. Why? Why? Why would the fact that the Steam Machine can play 4K 60 make it less appealing? That means that you were actually looking at this thinking you were going to get 4K 60. Now, I don't blame you. Again, if you're like a super normie and you were taking Valve at their word, which, again, I understand why you might think that, but this fucking machine is not going to be, it's not going to be possible. On the Steam website listing for the Steam Machine, Valve has adjusted the wording for the device, removing any reference to frame rate capabilities, indicating that the device is capable of playing up to 4K. Up to 4K. You see how they changed the wording? Up to 4K. The new version seems to imply that it can't play in 4K on all games, and if it does reach 4K, the frame rate could potentially be subpar. Previously, the website indicated that the CPU and GPU of the Steam Machine would give it enough power to make 4K gaming at 60 FPS possible when utilizing specifically FSR, which would be considered satisfactory by many PC gamers. However, the page now simply indicates that it can get up to 4K with FSR 4.1. The gamers are already expressing concern about the performance of the Steam Machine, especially since the new Valve device costs over $1,000, and this change could drive more potential customers away. You know, it's interesting that the problem is that people were showcasing the FPS of video games, and I was discussing this with Leon when we were playing Lords of the Fallen. People are showcasing right now online the FPS of certain video games like Cyberpunk, for example, in order to shit on the Steam Machine. And they're like, yeah, the Steam Machine can only run Cyberpunk at 22 FPS. And people are just reading it and believing it like it's nothing. They're just like, yeah, they're just believing it like it's the the gospel. But what they don't realize is that people are getting that 22 FPS number from Gamers Nexus that was purposefully running the game at insanely high specs because they wanted to have data that was equivalent with other machines that are tested at. So even though this machine is not meant to be playing the game at fucking like 1080p, all settings are max, ray tracing and whatnot, like that is not how the game was supposed to be ran. They actually reran Cyberpunk at decent settings. I think it was like medium or high settings. I think it was high settings. High settings, 1080p, no ray tracing, and it ran at 59 FPS, almost 60 FPS at, I believe, high settings, 1080p. That's what you're supposed to be playing on. You're not supposed to be maxing out the fucking settings on this machine that can't handle that. But again, people will take the lower number just to do whatever nonsense they want to do. So anyway, now that you know about that, I think this is kind of messed up though. Again, we've criticized Valve when they do wrong, and I think this was them really doing wrong. I think they should have never made this promise. I understand why they made this promise in order to essentially try to, try to make it seem as if they're, somewhat at a similar level of other machines. But at the end of the day, making that 4K 60 promise, you literally did the same thing PlayStation did, but with half the resolution. PlayStation's like, yeah, we're going to get 8K, no problems. Buy our machine. And then nobody could ever do 8K with the exception of like one video game. But again, they slapped that 8K label on it, but you know what they did after that? They took the label off. PlayStation took that 8K label off their boxes. It really is bad, man. You guys are fucking idiots for doing that shit. Now that we're talking about that, let's talk about this. The Steam machine reservations are being scalped for insane prices. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you really quick, just an FYI, I personally got denied for a Steam machine. I got denied for both. I will not be getting a Steam machine for a long time because it's in my belief, and I've come up with this theory. I'm one of the first people to really, I guess, say this from what I could see. I talked to Oh No, It's Alex about this. He didn't even think about this. It's in my belief that I think that they are purposely prioritizing people with lesser machines, not as powerful PCs. I think they're prioritizing those people for the Steam machine than people with stronger computers. I've seen a lot of people with actual decent PCs getting turned down, and then people with like not that great PCs getting accepted. Now, this is not across the board. This is not across the board. Obviously, I'm not saying it's gospel, but that's what I think is going on because they have access to your hardware information if you let them give you that information. If you give them that information, if you let them have it, I think that that's what they're doing. It's kind of like what I would think is happening. But yeah, I got denied for a Steam machine personally, so I will be waiting quite a while for a Steam machine. And I have no problems doing that because I waited a very long time in order to get a PlayStation at MSRP. My only concern with waiting is that it is in my belief, considering what's going on with Xbox and what's going on to PlayStation and also what's happening to Valve. It's in my belief that when they do the next round of Steam machines, they're going to increase the price again. Because they specifically worded it that this is the price of the cost of components now, which tells me that the price will probably go up if they release it again after this stuff. So I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. But as of right now, I'm not getting a Steam machine personally, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. I'm not going to be able to game on my TV for a little bit longer, which is okay. But other people apparently they are not okay with it. Because you got people buying up scalped Steam machines, right? Let's talk about this. Scalped Steam machines. Now, when I show you these prices, bro, you're not even gonna believe it. Or maybe you will, depending on how much you hate scalpers. Guys, there are Steam machines that are being scalped right now for $2,800. $2,999, $3,000. And it's for the 512. 512 with a controller. So the 1,150, whatever it is, for the Steam machine with the controller, they're trying to sell this for $3,000, bro. Not only that, somebody is trying to sell a reservation for a 2 terabyte console. It is not a console, so it shows you the retardation of the people who are trying to resell this. They're trying to sell a Steam Machine 2 terabyte reservation for $60. And there's 6 bids on it. There's actual bids on it. Bro, you can't sell your reservation. That's not how that works. They're going to take your money and run. So $3,000. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what the fuck? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Clearly. But the sad thing is that there's people actually buying the machine. Guys, this item is no longer available. It's been sold. $2,800. Somebody bought this Steam machine pre-order for $2,800, bro. This is why, like, when people are like, oh my God, $1,050 is so expensive, nobody would pay that. Bro, that is insanity. $2,800, somebody bought that. Now, again, keep in mind, guys, is that going to be all over the place? Probably not. Like, this is going to be, a few people. But this is why I say that scalpers exist, because the world is filled with retards. I'm sorry. Like, that's just what it is. The world is filled with retards. Where scalpers exist because they know that they're going to be able to sell, usually, this product to people like this, and it's easy money. Think about the level of return, right? Think about that. $1,050 for this machine, because this is actually, no, I'm sorry, this is the controller. So whatever, like $1,150 for this machine. This guy made more than double his money. More than double his money. It's insane. So, in any case, I saw this and I'm like, dude, this is absolutely wild. But it's going to keep happening. Like, look at this. Look at these listings. $2,899, $2,700, $1,950 with no controller. Look at this, bro. This is crazy. This is the world we live in, man. So, unfortunately, what this is also going to do is this is going to have companies like Valve. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, scalpers are selling our system that we just got yelled at for selling it at $1,050, and they're selling our system for almost $3,000. Guess what that means? The next one is going to go up in price. It brings me right back to my point before. they're going to be like, well, that's money that we could keep in our pockets. If there's people out there willing to pay that kind of price for those systems, depending on how many sell, shit, we might raise the price of our systems another couple $100, try to sneak in some money, some extra money. It's insane. You think PlayStation didn't learn that? Do you guys remember that when PlayStation first came out, for the first like 2 years, it was so difficult to get a PlayStation because of scalpers? That's why I waited so long. I purposely waited. I don't know how long I waited. I know it was years. I waited a long time until I could get a PlayStation at $500 or whatever the MSRP was at the time. I would not fucking pay a scalper. I absolutely refused. You know, those are Steam employees scalping. Oh, I'm sure. But yeah, it's like I refuse to pay a scalper for anything. I don't care personally. So, but yeah, that's basically it, boys. Crazy stuff. And yeah, I just can't believe they're being bought. That's really what it is. I'm sure the number's going to go drastically down. I'm sure it's probably going to level out to about 1,500 to 2,000. If I had to imagine. Right now, the scalpers are trying to get as much as they can while it's hot. But I'm sure it's going to go down quite a bit. But even so, like, even if it goes down, it doesn't matter. It's beyond egregious at this point. So